to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to our meeting, Tuesday, January 22nd. First, I'd like to explain our guest sitting in front of me. This is Anti-Bully Bear, and he used to be Dare Bear when my children were in the middle school. And then that program ended, so he retired. So we took him out of retirement to be Anti-Bully Bear when the high school started its vast anti-bullying program. So he comes to all our meetings now because, as we know, as part of the safety and the guns and everything else, the mental health is a huge piece, and we work hard on that. So welcome, everyone. Go ahead. You're going to move that up, please. Okay. We'll approve the consent agenda, please.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Now, we only have 3 members tonight. You can see 2 couldn't come, so any vote has to be unanimous. Okay, just so everybody knows. All those in favor? Thank you.
Mr. Rick, the leave of absence?
The leave of absence from Cassett School is Elizabeth Marrera.
All right, I'd like to move up 7C, cost of out-of-district placement for special needs students.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Okay.
And again, this is an item that we have talked about on numerous occasions. The cost of placing tuition increases for special needs students out of district. And right now, currently, there is no restrictions on what these providers can charge districts, and it's one of the biggest drivers in our budget. And Representative Edwards and Representative Canario are here to talk about submitting possible legislation that might address that.
This came up over the summer when we spoke about our budget and increases, and I know Mr. Fiore mentioned that he usually budgets a 10% increase for us to receive the same services. It's not that our special ed services, that we're getting more students or students with more needs, but for us to provide the same services to the same students, we would project a 10% increase one year over the other. And that seemed excessive. I know the schools and the towns, we have to keep under a 4% cap. And during a 3-day conference that I participated in Boston one year, I did meet educators from other states who informed me that the state limits the percentage increase that these service providers can go up from year to year. And so I spoke to Representative Edwards about whether we might be able to try to do something similar in Rhode Island.
And I must point out, this was brought up when around the campaign trail with Representative Edwards, Mrs. Herman, and Dr. Herman, and myself. We had a wonderful time going door to door to all the houses, and also that we're not trying to limit in any way the services we provide.
No, absolutely not.
That we're just trying to make sure it's predictable and, you know. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. With Representative Canario, and we understand that Dr. Herman has a piece of legislation you found from Massachusetts, which was similar?
It was New Hampshire.
New Hampshire.
The educator I spoke to was from New Hampshire.
Okay. And it capped it at what?
I believe it was 5%.
I spoke to someone from Bradley about their increases, and they didn't seem to think that there was any really large increases coming forward. But you're presently budgeting up to 10%?
That's correct for our tuitions. And Bradley's just not our only provider. They're one of our primaries. But they do go up every year, and there's no accountability from the provider. They don't say, like when we talk about our budget went up at, 3% or 2.5%. We explain what our increase is for. They don't necessarily provide that information. I've never seen that kind of data provided to us either from Bradley or any of our providers.
How many different providers do you use currently?
We use at least, Doug, do you have that at least?
Yeah, I've got it in front of me.
I'd say 10 or 12.
It's even more than that now.
And they're all state agencies?
No,
No.
they're all private.
All private.
Except Bradley.
Bradley would be.
So, Mr. Rick, just to give us a sense of the magnitude of the problem, and it's a 10% increase per year, not 10% of the total budget, correct?
It's our tuitions, we build, sometimes it doesn't hit 10%, but we use that as our
As a benchmark or
increases.
a sort of expectation that that's what it's likely to be.
That's correct.
Can you give us a sense of the total dollar amount and the total number of students that we're talking about?
Tuitions are 2.6 million.
So 2.6, so that is about 10% of the total school
Of
budget.
the total budget, yes. If you were doing a total, it's probably around 8 or 9%.
So controlling this cost would be not trivial.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
No, it goes, our special ed costs go usually between $250,000 and $400,000 in our tuition line. That's something.
But that's
happens.
different. We're talking something different from special education that the students are receiving in this
You have the
system, or
tuition,
you're
you have
talking
the
about?
tuition, right, the tuition is a separate line item.
Right.
Because our total special ed bill is $4.2 million.
Right. So this is
Including
for
donations.
students receiving services outside the
of
physical
us.
buildings
That's
of our
correct.
school system.
That's
So that's 2.6 million?
Yes.
And how many students is that serving?
There's 94 students that, some could be duplicated if they have services by a different provider, but a total of 94 currently.
So 94 students,
That could have multiple services provided to them from different servers.
Right.
So they could be replicated on that 94, so individual students, it's somewhat less than that, but we have 94, you could say, individual contracts.
So 94 contractual arrangements where you're paying tuition for different students.
Yes.
So the total number of students actually being served may be something less than that?
Yes.
Do you have any sense of what that number might be?
I would say probably about 70. I can get an exact count either during the meeting tonight or by our next meeting.
Okay.
So was your understanding when you spoke to Bradley Hospital that they would then not object to, say, a 5% cap on their tuition increases?
That's not what they said at all.
But that was the impression was they don't feel they have large increases, and so a 5%.
And again, in a big company, a 4 to
Increase.
5% increase might not be considered that big or is that significant, but when you put it into a budget like ours, we're capped at a 4% total, and that takes up such a disproportionate amount of our budget, it has a much greater impact, so.
So the legislation you're looking for, you want it to be capped at a matching number that the state is capping the city and town at?
That would
Whatever we
seem-
cap, if we're presently capping at 4 1/4, you want it to be kept at 4 1/4. If we capped at 4%, you want to keep it
It's actually 4.
4. But if you want to keep it at 4, whatever the city and
think that
town is obligated to.
Right, because it's an education cost, and the rest of the public education,
I think it's
Providers
certainly
are
a
capped
conversation that I think if it's introduced, will bring out folks on both sides of the issue. But I know from the school side, it is something superintendents have wrestled with. I've been doing it 10 years, for at least the last 10 years, probably longer than that.
Would there be any extenuating circumstances that a provider might have that might need to exceed the cap?
Well, they would argue the need of the child, depending on the service that the child requires. They could probably argue, well, we need this person who's in this service, and they have prices associated with it. So I'm just trying to be in their side. They're probably saying they have costs that they need this to provide.
Yeah,
I was thinking about if there's anything you want us to have put in, like an out for the provider, some way that they can show extenuating circumstances or something exemplary that
Well, I
they
think
could
there are
use
probably-
to increase their fee.
I think there probably are certain cases that are extraordinary, where...
Is there anything you could think of to have put in the legislation?
I would think if the service changes from one year to the
Right.
next, the expectation wouldn't be for a cap to apply to that situation, but if it's the exact same service from one year to the next,
right.
that's something.
Right,
that-
if a
that's
student
correct.
needs additional services, well,
That would be
that's a
exempt.
different
That's
story. But if the student is receiving exactly the same services next
From
year
the
as
previous
this
year,
year,
that's correct.
then that's where a cap would come into play.
Okay.
And it's all going to come down to the health care issue, as you know, because they're going to say this is what we're being charged and that went up. And so it'll, as you said, Mr. Rick, it'll be worked out in that venue.
I think it's worthy of the discussion, because
Definitely.
something
Right.
needs to be done
Definitely.
to try to cap these costs that we as districts have.
Yeah.
Well, you're very fortunate, because Representative Canario happens to be on Health, Education, and Welfare.
I noticed that.
And he will
I
be
was
the
very
gentleman
happy.
who will be presenting this bill.
That's good. Thank you for coming tonight.
Now, Tiverton falls under the Newport County
That's
Regional
correct.
Special Ed, correct?
That's correct, but our tuitions belong to us,
Okay.
just like Portsmouth's tuitions belong to
Exactly.
them. We have the regional programs that we share, but that's not what we're talking about. This is
Okay.
Bradley,
This is more
Non-Newport
individualized.
non-Newport County programs.
Right.
Where we have to bus our children to.
Okay.
So, Dr. Herman, what we will do is we will have someone in Ledge Council research the New Hampshire legislation, trying to find something that we can use with Rhode Island law, because it's not rocket science. I mean, if they've already got something written up that seems to work well for them, we can probably find something in that legislation that works for Rhode Island. If you're aware of any other states where this legislation might already be available?
Yeah, I could do research. I could
Well, no, I mean, we can have it. If you just happen off the top of your head know a state other than New Hampshire that had this
Not off
legislation
the
already in
top of my
effect.
head.
Okay. Is there anything else you wish for legislation this year?
Yeah, you have the genie with you tonight.
If I know that question was going to be asked.
Well, the bill you put in for the 40% reimbursement, right?
Yes, I did.
You already put that one in.
Both Representative Canario and I put that bill in, and we will be requesting a hearing. The number one bill that we have in this year that's going to be going to finance, obviously, is the repeal of Article 20 to keep the tolls off the
tolls.
Sky River Bridge. We will be forwarding you a request, asking this committee to give us a resolution, sponsoring the legislation, not sponsoring it, but
Endorsing it?
endorsing it, thank you very much. Endorsing legislation so that we have, and we're going to send one to all the school committees in Newport County and all the town councils and city councils so that we have broader support.
That'll be good.
Right, Mrs. Polish did speak to that at the public hearing, how it's certainly a toll would make collaboration much more difficult between neighboring school districts, and more difficult for students who are participating in various activities.
Well, right now, we're under contract with our bus company, but if a toll were to be enacted when the contract expires, I'm sure they'll build, I don't know if they're exempt now, but if they weren't to be exempt, I'm sure that's a cost that would be passed back to us and to all the other regional school districts that use the bridge.
And if you could, if you do approve a resolution in favor of the legislation, I would appreciate any anecdotes that speak specifically to your issues with having a toll on the bridge that you just spoke about. But if you can make it very specific with very exact items in there, it would be a big help.
Okay, that'll be good.
Anything else? And I will notify the committee when the bill comes up for the 40% reimbursement. We'll let you know.
Be happy to
And
speak.
Representative Canario will let you know when this legislation goes in.
And the only other thing, I know there's a bill, I believe in the House and the Senate, for the pushing back the tenure date, to when you have to renew people, let them know they'll be laid off. Excuse me, not tenure. I know we haven't voted, but we
Historically.
we would,
Yeah.
I think that would be a very beneficial piece of
That's Mr.
legislation.
DePalma's,
to-
we've spoken
that-
about that.
Senator
Yeah, Lou
DePalma.
De Palma submitted that.
Right.
Yeah, I'm on House Labor. We
Because
normally
next
hear
month,
that bill every
At our
year.
next meeting, we have to go through the ritual of layoffs.
Right.
And it's something that we, especially at Tiverton, where it's so early, you know, when we have to do everything by mid-March, it's just not fair to our employees to say, you know, you may be laid off because.
I don't understand why they had that to begin with, because it just seemed odd that it was so early in the year.
I don't
Do
even know.
you know what the meaning, what
That's
the
been
purpose of that
that
was?
way, I've been in Rhode Island since the late 80s, and it's always been that date. I don't know where that date came from.
And it causes such undue stress.
I know why
It's
they have it,
terrible.
but I don't know why they
Yeah.
do it so early, since the General Assembly historically has never done the budget pass it, late May, early June, at the latest.
Late June.
Late June.
June.
Really
Every
late.
time it's late June.
Late June,
Like-
June 30th,
Like 2 o'clock
New
in the
Year.
morning.
just before midnight.
Just before, yeah.
But I don't know why they picked March 1st. I have no idea.
I have an answer to Dr. Larkin's question. We have 73 unique students that are affected by out-of-district tuition.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fiore.
Is that conclude that.
Any further?
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having us.
We'll be in contact.
Mr. Eric, just for everyone's education, including the people at home, does the state funding formula take into account the number of students, or the amount of tuition we're paying to outside?
Not really. The state funding formula allocates 500,000.
Yeah, in theory, there's a component in the funding formula that addresses this very concern.
But they only have $500,000 total for the entire state earmarked for cases over $50,000.
For example, we get about $6,000 annually to cover our excessive, what they consider excess costs, which is a multiplier of what our average per pupil cost is. So it's in the formula, but it's not currently being funded substantially.
Meanwhile, our increase is 300 to 400,000 a year.
Right.
So 6,000 is
Well,
not
that was,
addressing
again,
it.
one of the issues at the time that we had with the funding formula. Granted, it gave you some measure of stability from one year to the next to
Right.
estimate what your aid would be. Because in years past, you wouldn't know until June. You know, you'd be sitting there waiting, what's the number going to be? But the way they structured it, they just took the current pot of money 2 or 3 years ago, created the formula, and said, for the next 10 years, this is how we're going to divide it up. And oh yes, we'll put 500,000 aside for really high-profile special needs cases.
There's a recognition that it's a problem for districts, but they haven't been able to fund that particular component.
Is there and I'm sorry to get so much into this, but is there a, in terms of the contracted services, is everything in there something that would be interpreted purely as educational services, or my guess is that a lot of it is medical
Correct.
slash
the
social
high
support.
price, the more expensive tuitions have
That's what
more of
that's
that
going to be.
You have Bradley. You can have a Bradley placement in Portsmouth,
Right.
which is what, 30,000?
Yeah.
Or roughly
28,
28,000. But then you can have Bradley in East Providence that
Right.
runs 50, 60,000
Right.
because of what the child, what it entails in the IEP and what the child needs. So it varies from child to child as to what services are going to need.
But even
But
more
a
specifically,
lot of the-
nursing-type situations, I think is what you were
Aides,
referring to.
one-on-one aides.
Right.
Sometimes they need a one-on-one aide to be assigned to a student as they travel to the out-of-district placement.
Is there any effort made to find other funding sources for those types of requirements from Medicaid or other types of, health insurance?
We do get reimbursed from the federal government.
Yeah.
We do get a Medicaid reimbursement.
Newport County hires a consultant to work with our Medicaid reimbursable expenses, so they identify any that are reimbursable and submit the appropriate paperwork.
And we build that back into our revenue as part of our revenue stream.
Okay.
For next, again.
We use it to offset some of the expenses.
Okay.
But as you pointed out at the last meeting, when they passed the IDEA, individual
73.
disabilities in 73, it was a 40% they were supposed to give us.
60-40.
And then
Right.
it's down to the low teens now, what we really get.
Yeah, we actually
Supposed
got a
to get
boost the last few
40%.
years from Medicaid reimbursement through the ARA funding, but it's gone back to the historical
to the
levels
regular.
now, so we can't count on that revenue coming in the future.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Approval of policy.
policy, the video surveillance, Mr. Eric?
Yes, I'm asking approval of policy 1178, video surveillance on school department property.
Now, this came up at the last meeting, this was the second reading, and since the others aren't here, usually we wouldn't vote, but Mrs. Polish is on the policy committee that wrote it, so I think it would be okay.
Mr. Burgundy expressed no
Yes,
concerns.
and when we spoke of it last time. So, are there any questions about that policy?
No, just for the audience, I'd like to let them know that the policy covers the camera placement and operation, signage and notification of the cameras, the use of the recordings, and it also prohibits any unauthorized video recording on school property.
And right now, people at home need to know the internal cameras are located at the high school and the middle school as of right now, at various points that we've identified. We also have them externally as well, at all our schools, but
Right.
internally just at the high school and middle school. And that's one before you vote. That Commissioner Gist was up in the General Assembly today. We didn't get a chance to go because of our meeting tonight. But two of the things that was to recommend one was SROs, which we're working on, and the second was cameras, which we've already had. This is our third year, I believe, that we've had cameras in our schools. So we're going in the right direction, I believe, regarding providing a safer environment for our students.
I wasn't able to go either, but I watched it on TV, and they talked about a vulnerability assessment, which is what you've been doing with the chief, going around to all the schools and looking at everything, and working also with the fire department. I think that's really good that we're doing that, and then you can come back to us with all that when you're finished. Is there a motion for that?
Motion to approve the policy on video surveillance.
Second.
All those in favor? Mr. Eric, could you please notify the parents now that we're asking about that, of this policy?
Yes.
Thank you.
I'll put it in
Just send them a little.
Connect that email.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I'll attach the policy.
Okay, thank you. On Newport County Mentoring Program, that's our program with all the Newport County schools, and we have a meeting every month. And this month it was at Portsmouth High School, and there was a gentleman there that came named Joe Cooper, and he was involved in the American Cup races in '77 and '80. And he spoke of a program called REACH, which has a prepared curriculum that's aligned with the STEM program. And he wants to get involved with our schools with a sales program. And so he's going to come to Tiverton on Thursday to meet with Mr. Phillips, because we told him of the things we have going on down there. And so he was very excited that we already have something going, and he can connect some of the kids with that, and that's just what we're trying to do in that mentoring program. Also, one of the people from Electric Boat came, and she went into the classroom and told the kids all about that. Not only that, she stayed with one of the children that were interested, one of the students, and helped him apply. And if they get into Electric Boat, it's a wonderful thing, because they can then they'll educate them. And so Diane was involved in that. So could you tell us about that, and also about the CCRI?
Sure. We're trying to connect with Electric Boat on a couple of levels, and one of them is through students being able to apply early, and they'll work with the student and make sure that they're developing the skills that are needed. And it's all because there's a labor shortage. They're having difficulty finding the right skilled labor. On another level, we are discussing our science curriculum with people at Electric Boat, mostly the engineers, and trying to make a connection there so that we can bring in some real-world applications to our science curriculum. So that's all underway. And then also, with CCRI, we're still discussing the possibility of an early college program. There's a meeting, I believe, Friday, Mr. Fazette?
Friday at 11, we're meeting with them.
So we have representatives from CCRI coming down to meet with our guidance staff to take a look at courses that we currently offer that would be eligible within a health science program. God bless you. And so we're hoping that we can kind of build that. So it's something new that they don't offer currently with high schools. So looking forward to that conversation. And all of this connects with the changes to the Rhode Island Career and Technical Education Guidelines. So we're looking forward to finding more about that, and funding and technical assistance that might be available at the state level.
And also at the meeting was a representative, I put it in your backup, from Junior Achievement, and they have K through 12 programs. So if any of the principals are interested, she said they have funding that they have to spend before June, so we said we'd certainly help her with that. And so if you want to contact her, she'll come to the schools and work the program with the teachers. So Mr. Eric can let you know we have her card.
You know,
Junior Achievement.
in my junior high school, Junior Achievement comes in and works with the 8th graders through the Family and Consumer Science classrooms, and it's been very popular. So I don't know if Mrs. Mitchell might want to at least know that it's an option.
We'll review it at our Ad Council meeting.
Right. Okay, thank you, that would be good. And this is all going on, as I said, through the Newport County Mentor Program that we're involved in. And don't forget, when we first went, they made the brochure and we weren't on it. So then the next time I offered that we'd make it, and then we were on the top of the page, so that was excellent. So that's the one they'll pass out now. They always forget Tiverton. The budget, Mr. Barrett?
Yes, just briefly, since our last meeting, when we last talked, one of the omissions on my part, and I just went to the slide here, it's probably about halfway through yours, PowerPoint, is that the stipends, I needed to add boys and girls basketball, which we had, but I needed to add the cross-country position, and I put boys, girls, because it's a coach for both. When Doug and I went back and looked at the stipends again, we talked to Bob Murray, and we had actually had a little bit higher numbers than we should have used. What that did was, they're lower, and what it did was brought down our total increase to 3.3%.
Mr. Murray actually rates every coaching position based on criteria.
Based on the contract, right.
And we went back to his source documents and used, based on his recommendation. But
because we don't have them in the contract, the number, we chose higher levels, that we thought that they should be higher. Bob changed it and adjusted it for us, and he said that these would be more in line with other positions. So what it did was, it wasn't a lot of money, it was about $10,000. Total reduction, and that brought us to 3.3%.
So then it's 2.6.
Yes.
On the tax
and
rate.
And then 2.6 on the tax. There's one other slide in there that we gave the budget committee. We talked about these three positions. If we were to put dollar amounts totaling them up, it would be about $250,000, which these are the three positions that were requested by the principals that never made it into the budget. But I thought it was important for the budget committee to see, that we, like I said the other night, that we actually cut before it even came to you. We could have included these three positions, and they're needed. The library aide, or is it librarian aide? It should be library aide. The part-time nurse and the middle school guidance counselor. There's strong rationale and justification for each. We could have put it into the budget, and we still would have been under the cap. So, in the spirit of what we've been trying to do over the last few years, is really just putting what we need versus
what we'd like to have.
What we'd like to have, even though, and that's what these kind of fit in. We'd love to have them. They certainly would support various parts of our instructional process, but due to our budget constraints, I just felt that they wouldn't have made the cut in the long run when we went back and looked at the budget, because we would have been at 3.8, 3.9, and I know the committee wanted us to be well under that. So,
but we would have been under the cap.
We
could have legally had these.
We could have put them in and then said,
and we could have maybe believe cut them out and all that, but we're not going to do that.
And I just, we're at the point now with our budgeting. I think we've been viewed by the budget committee as very reliable in our projections and our requests. I thought that was evident by our meeting Thursday. I thought they were pretty receptive to what we were talking about, what our needs are, capital needs. And that's why later on in the budget I'm asking for the fire suppression system. When we would talk to the budget committee, I wasn't clear regarding the building study. I felt that they kind of wanted us to wait and talk to the town to see if they could combine it into some sort. The town might have funds for their side and our side, but try to put it together for a town-wide facility study. So I didn't put it on our budget to be reviewed, this week. So I just felt, based on our conversations, it might have been a little too soon. However, and I know we don't have a full board, but at some point where I would like the committee, we have the new staffing position requested, the coaching, here's the facility study. When we get to the NEASC report, and I'll jump it a little early, one of the things they highlight, they say replace the curtain in the cafeteria. Guess they had lunch during one of the 4 days and saw
it's on there
the
every
condition.
Year. It's awful.
And this picture doesn't do it justice.
You got the color one.
Yeah, I know, it's high tech today, it's the color one. And it's just all crunched, and that's the good side. When you look on the inside portion, it's even more damaged. And again, this curtain has been the divider, whatever you like to call it, has been there. Our head Paul DeCosta told us since 1976. So it's well past its shelf life. But at some point, regarding the lockers, the cafeteria curtain, and the stools at the middle school, I got from the budget committee that they wouldn't be opposed to us if we chose to use our
Reserve funds.
reserves
In general,
for
they
those
seem to be
items.
supportive of.
Right,
of
for one-time capital
expenditures
expenses.
And again,
Right.
that's something that we don't have to act on now because it would be separate anyway. But those are something that we really probably need to look at in the coming weeks, because we have until March 19th.
But I think the fire suppression,
That would be next, since it's a
it's
budget
not
item.
optional.
I didn't want to.
So what report was criticizing us for our curtain?
Our NEASC,
NEASC.
our New
The
England Association of Secondary.
Oh, right.
Yep.
Secondary schools, colleges. It's our accreditation report for the high school.
That's really what they chose to focus on,
It was a
huh?
good report.
No, well,
They do
There's quite a lot.
educational things, but they also do
But-
facility
Right.
studies. And that it's helpful for districts to have those in the budget to say, this is part of your accreditation.
Right.
And, for example, our gym.
Bleacher seats.
Bleacher
Right.
seats. When I was principal eons ago, in the previous evaluation, they said, do the seats. And Steve, when did we do those? Year 8 of the 10 years they gave us?
It was right close.
I mean, we were
At the end, yes, we finished it
Right
just
at the
in
end.
time,
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, it was like the last one that we.
I mean, there are health and safety issues in
Yeah.
schools
So,
that they're
I
addressing.
apologize for speaking educationese, I forget. But that's it as far as, it's just an update as to what the budget committee received. I'll put it online, just as another update, even though we didn't take any action regarding.
And we had a very positive meeting with the budget
Oh, yes,
committee on
very
Thursday
positive. I
night.
thought it was
Yes.
That's
very
Thursday.
informative.
It was.
And again, the issue of the SRO.
School resource officer.
School resource officer is something that they seemed very receptive with. They were very positive about that. And I would assume they're going to be speaking to the town council, and I think they're up in 2 weeks of council. And I'm sure they'll have those conversations. Again, it was more of a wait and see, let them talk, and we meet on March 7th
Right.
with them again.
That will be our next joint meeting.
As of right
March
now,
7th. March 7th.
I sent an email to the committee.
Okay.
Mrs. Epke sent us the schedule.
Okay.
That appears to be the only one that we're
Okay,
online
thank you.
for right now, in line for right now.
Anybody have any questions on that? No? School security update?
Yes, just, again, I sent a letter home. I think all of you received a copy of the letter to the parents, just to really give them an update as to what we've been doing since the Newtown tragedy. Again, Sergeant Cabral right now is the acting as our school resource officer, and he is, while assigned to the high school, will service all 5 schools for the remainder of the year. Again, as I said before the budget committee, when we spoke, again, I want to thank the chief for all he's done to be able to find it within his manpower to be able to provide somebody for us for the rest of the year.
And I want to thank both of you for working so closely on this.
We've had a
Really?
number of meetings and conversations since, the Newtown tragedy. Also, over the winter break, we instituted, when people come to the school, they should be asked their name, state their business as to why they're there. If the principal does not, the person buzzing them in doesn't know who they are, or they have some concerns, they're to get the principal, and they're there to keep the person outside until the principal can identify the person and why they're there. We also will be in the process of sending something out probably in the next week asking for greeters. That came up during our meeting. Parents expressed that they wouldn't mind serving as greeters, and hopefully we'll be able to have them for all our schools.
That would be nice.
So they can,
Yeah.
so the ladies in the office or whoever's there,
Right.
they can check them, make sure they pass the questionnaires that they're given, or the questions, and we can send someone to greet them. Plus, it's also nice to have someone
Yes,
Yeah, welcome
yes.
to
That's
Tiverton
right.
High School,
Very
or welcome
pleasant.
to Ranger School, or welcome to Tiverton Middle School.
Yeah, even your first time at the middle school, when you walk in, it's not
Yeah,
immediately
'cause when
clear
you
where
walk
the
in,
main
because
office
the way
is.
they designed it, unless you've been there, you're
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
You know, you can go.
You enter a stairwell and you're not
Or
really sure
you
where to
even-
go.
Well, you go through the second door and you go,
Yeah.
okay, where do I go? That sort of thing. So hopefully that will make things a little more convenient for folks when they come to the school. And also, the parents wanted to know the types of drills, the number of drills that we would be having during the year, and I listed that in the letter as well. We, the principals, are working on trying to at least have one lockdown a quarter. So the true lockdown, not the evacuation like that's here, but the actual lockdown, so we can at least try to do 4 a year. There is legislation, and I want to say it's pending, but I believe they want to have one a month for schools. And I think if you do them too often, it might lose its effect on children, especially the older kids. The younger children usually will do, you know, they'll follow the teacher's lead, but if you do it, if it loses that sense of urgency, I don't know if that's necessarily, I understand the intent, but I'm not sure if that's the best way to go.
Yeah, and you always have to weigh time off learning.
Right, and
Because
then-
in a
and-
true
and-
lockdown, you are
you will
not
also
doing
have,
any work,
because we're not-
you're waiting.
What we'll try to do is we'll try to announce it, say, during the week of, especially for the younger children. Your children, you know, we will be doing a lockdown drill during the week. We won't say what day or whatever, but that week of. So that when it does happen, you know, parents can tell their children, you know, don't be afraid because it's going to be a drill. But also we'll pick the day so it's a little more realistic. But you walk a fine line because you don't want to scare the children, especially the younger kids. But on the other hand, you got to try to make it serious and real and follow the procedures that we need. So that's the letter that I sent home. It's just a brief overview, really, of what we're doing. I have met with the chief, gosh, at least 4 times. We've talked probably a dozen times since the 20th regarding various issues. There are some issues that we need to talk about, you know, in executive session, if you'd like, or I can put it off. But there are some other recommendations that we need to address.
Yeah, thank you. I thought that was a very good letter, and I think we're moving in the right direction with all of these issues.
Wastewater treatment?
Yes, as we talked about at our last meeting, the site for the leaching area off of North Brayton was denied by the DEM. Doug and I went to the Stonebridge Water Board meeting last Monday, a week ago Monday, explained, as well as our engineer, Bill Smith, and we explained to them what the situation was. They were, again, very understanding of our plight, and they recommended that we talk to the Rec Commission. They gave, and I didn't realize this at the time, they still control the land that they donated to the Rec Commission for the soccer fields until something's actually built. So they recommended that we go speak to the Rec Commission to see if we can find an area of the 8 acres that donated to the Rec Commission that we could place this.
The original area that the engineer had targeted is viewed by the water board as some of the more valuable property because it has frontage. So they, in an alternative of using that, they presented this second choice, which was unexpected, and I think we're going to be on the next meeting for the recreation.
The end of next week.
And hopefully the Recreation Commission will see that, we'll explain to them our situation, hopefully work with us.
And then they'll be able to use it.
Yeah, the intent isn't to change any of their plans, it's to
No.
work with them. It may shift their design a little bit, or maybe it won't have to, depending on, you know, the land that's available. But the good news is the Water District owns not only that land that they let the soccer fields be built on, but surrounding area as well, so there's some flexibility there.
Yeah, they do. That's good.
And since they didn't put it in writing, but they did endorse the idea that go there, so that was
Right.
very helpful.
That's good.
Actually, the board came up with
So we'll be going there next week.
recommendation.
Yeah, actually, the board was somewhat up to speed on our plate as
Yeah.
well, so I guess they were following our
Yeah.
Yeah,
wastewater
they
saga.
didn't need a whole lot of
Yeah, that's right.
briefing, which was good.
Well, they came that night to our meeting, which was good. Yeah, it's good to work together like that. Okay.
Right, and so if you do identify a location near the soccer fields, then the engineer draws up plans and those plans go to DEM, or
Yeah,
how does that?
That's correct. The good news is our facility doesn't change at all. Basically, it's just the sand pits that we've shown diagrams of. Those would be moved to the end of North Brayton. So the only extra cost would be the extra pipe to get from
And he'd have to,
behind the high school.
he'd have to do the perk
up to-
test, the soil where we want it,
Okay.
but he feels that that would be a very,
The extra testing and the extra pipe is probably under $10,000, so that was somewhat encouraging.
And it's also, it really is the least, it's very, as far as cost goes, it's minimal.
Compared to some of the
compared to
alternatives that
having to
just
bring
didn't
water
work.
in
Oh,
and
yeah,
the
that's
other
right.
alternatives that
That's
we're
good.
faced with.
So we're still optimistic that our $400,000 number is realistic based on these changes, and hopefully if we get the land use by the water district, we'll be in good shape.
That'll be good. Online access, Mr. Barrett?
This was an item that Mrs. Polish asked, so I can put
Yes.
it on the next agenda if that's okay. Or do you want to talk about it now?
I
we
don't
should
think
wait.
she would mind. I think
Oh.
she's interested in moving ahead with it. Her request, as I recall, was in addition to posting our agendas online, that there be some backup materials posted online.
We can back up, yeah, we can do that. There's certain things that we
Certain things we
couldn't.
can't, but we can do some stuff.
But we can certainly
right?
do,
Elaine?
Can't do anything that's personnel,
No,
you
of course not.
can't do anything where a vote that could alter, a vote could alter what's on the agenda, but you could do budget,
like all of the
things
budget
like
things,
that.
the letter, for example. You know,
Right,
there are items
right.
that we could.
The
use.
policy.
The policy.
Policy.
Yeah, there are items
Yeah.
that we can, it's just a matter of scanning it and putting it.
Would
Yep.
that be okay with
Mhm.
you,
Yeah.
Elaine?
Yeah, we can do that.
So that would be pretty much everything but personnel action that we typically see under consent agenda.
Or exec session.
And-
Plus
yeah,
exec
yeah.
session.
Yeah. Yeah, we can do that, if that's the desire of the committee. You don't need a vote.
Do I have a
We'll just-
motion then?
You don't need to.
Oh, you want to just do it? Okay.
Okay.
All right.
And then we'll go through some growing pains to see how that goes. And hopefully we
All right, that's good.
follow the open meetings laws appropriately.
High school accreditation?
Yes, I'm pleased to announce that Tiverton High School, if you recall, last year went through its accreditation process. It happens every 10 years. And in New England, the group that does the accreditation is the New England Association of Schools and Colleges, or NEASC, as I referenced it before. You have in your packets the letter that NEASC sends out. You can see that they list a number of, not just a number, but numerous recommendations and things that they thought that we did well here at the school. They also have, again, in all reports, that we have to do our first one-year report, which is due October 1st, and it has 5 items that Mr. Fizzette and the high school staff will address. And then there are other items that need to be addressed during the 2-year window. And I'll just ask Steve, I know he wants to say a few words regarding the accreditation. Again, I just want to, before he begins, I just want to congratulate him, Mr. McKinnon, Mrs. Arujo Martin, and Mr. Soares, who were the 2 co-chairs of the NEASC committee, and all the work that they did to
They did an excellent job.
on all the writing.
Really?
That it's quite a monumental task
It
to do
really
an
is.
accreditation.
Yeah, the staff did a great job in the self-study, the steering committee. We had the coordinators for each of the standards areas, and I thought they did a great job on actually the culmination and the writing of the self-study report. That was followed up by our visit last March that you had participated in. We received the feedback from the visiting committee. We met with the chairperson over the summer to tweak, modify, edit their report. Then that went on to the commission, and the commission sent us back, I thought, a very noteworthy report for Tiverton High School and this community. I thought some of the strong points about it was that they acknowledged in a very positive way a variety of personnel, the members of the school committee, members of our maintenance staff, our support personnel, as well as our teachers are mentioned in a number of those bullets there in very, very positive ways, and how they support instruction and support the kids in other ways, the capacity of the advisory program. As Bill had said, we have a very brief report that we'll have to put out centering around 5 bullets for next October, although I did talk to the director because this report is a little late. They moved locations, so it'll probably actually be more like a December report for us. And then we have to establish a follow-up committee, which will take a look at the visiting team's recommendations as well as the commission's recommendations, and then we will have to begin a response in the next 2 years, and that would be our initial progress into the next decade for accreditation 24. There'll be a 2-year report, a 5-year report, a 7-year report, and so on. Each year we update NEASC with a substantive report, which is very reflective if we have a big drop in staff, big turnover in administration, or a huge budget deficit that could impact on programming instruction. They require feedback from us on a yearly basis in those areas. Earlier in the meeting, I had actually given you a little NEASC sheet that they put out as part of their information. It's kind of a 5-page packet, but I actually just gave you the page that is attributed to value to the citizens and taxpayers regarding a successful NEASC accreditation for a high school. It assures that tax money is supporting a school facility and programs that have been judged worthwhile by an outside team of evaluators. The citizens are advised of the strengths, needs, and long-range plans of the school. And finally, the reputation of the community benefits from the accreditation, since the retention or the loss of accreditation has a demonstrated effect on local property values. Even going to the extent of potential home buyers or renters in a given community seeking information from about the nature and quality of programs at the community's high school. And assumedly a lack of accreditation would discourage individuals so informed from pursuing residency in communities whose school lacked accreditation status, and that's right off the NEASC website. So, I mean, obviously the big thing is for our kids. They're attending an accredited high school. All of the values and the expectations that have gone into the work, it should be a positive situation for the staff and the kids. And it also ensures that when they're ready to make applications to post-secondary institutions, it's so noted that they've attended a NEASC accredited high school. So with that, you know, I'm glad you get a chance to take a look at it. I'll probably be sharing a copy with, I'm not sure if Mike are here this evening, as well as Mr. Daglish. I've talked to him at Secana Times, so the public will actually get a copy of this full positive report.
We'll also be online. We didn't want to put it online until you had a chance to see it.
Again, I'd like to thank you and the staff. And one of the sentences that, as I read through it, that jumped out on me was the tremendous sense of school pride in a safe, positive learning environment. And that's something we work so hard on, school climate. And the other thing is we have to provide adequate funding for professional development and technology. That's something that we know and that we're trying to do every year, little by little. And I was there at the State House that night, early in the morning, when they cut professional development from all the schools. And then we tried to backfill it, but we haven't really done such a good job. We know how important that is for the teachers going forward, if we want to have an excellent teacher in every classroom. So those are the 2 things in our budget, and it's also recommended in here which strengthens our
And we did address like 3 or 4 of their recommendations with the new contract.
Right.
Remember, the visit came before we had a chance, before the contract was written.
Right.
So now with the 2 PD days, it's a good start
we're trying
for us to address
build that
those
back in.
items. So we knew even before they came out, that was something that the committee made a priority.
Exactly.
And there are many positive things, but again, one of the criticisms that we hear, or I hear, is about our teachers and that they don't work hard. there's one here that says, and this all talks about how hard our staff works. And the staff here at the high school, the staff, the middle school, and our 3 elementaries work just as hard. But we're talking about the high school tonight. The availability of teachers to stay beyond the school day. That stands out for me because there's so much said that's inaccurate about teachers and their work day and things like that. And here's an outside team coming in and recognizing that our teachers work well beyond the hours that they're supposed to.
Well, I went to the new program they have at the middle school the other night that came before us, and who was there? All the teachers. They didn't have to be there. It was at night. It was, not required. And I went room to room, and all the teachers were there. It was an amazing program, and that just speaks to it. And that was at Ranger School.
There's so much in here for us all to be proud of, and I do think it's important to share the results of this NEASC accreditation visit with not only our parents but with the larger community. And I did read through it carefully, and as Mrs. Black said, some of the recommendations really fall on our shoulders as school committee members to make sure that they happen. Professional development, which we were able to include in the next contract.
And we've already worked on it prior to, so when we present to you in the spring, what the PD will look like, it will address those issues. So.
And even their recommendations going forward, many of them are just a continuation of things that you've already started. The common assessments and analyzing student data. I know this, you're well on your way, and they're just asking you to continue with that. The one recommendation that I did have a question on is there is one about ensuring that every student is in at least one heterogeneously grouped core course. How do they define core course? And is this a surprise to you?
No, or there's a lot of debate that was internally at the high school over this question. Steve and I and many on the staff believe there are heterogeneous courses that every child has to
Yes. It's a health course.
Health and senior project come to mind. But when you do these reports, you have to have everyone agree. And because there was disagreement when the self-study was written, it was shown that there was some question about it. So when they came, the visiting team came, they conversed with everybody and, heard the people that say we have senior project and PE, and those that didn't think that was what they wanted. So I think that's kind of where that came from, and I think we I know we do.
Well, do they define course? I mean, are they looking for math or science?
Well, to be honest, we actually researched what some other high schools have done during the visit, and they've gone outside of the scope of a core course as far as, and that's why, but we have that debate. I mean, I'm sure everybody can say, sometimes no one is harder on themselves than the staff themselves. And
they're a little overly critical, you think?
So I simply intervened at one point, and I said simply, we're going to let the visiting team decide on this. Okay. And if they decide they want us to look into this again, we will revisit it.
Okay.
As a follow-up team, as a follow-up committee. And that one needed some time.
Okay, for more internal discussion.
And what happens is even if it's determined that the senior project and the PE is what we want to present, Steve and the team will submit that, and then it's up to NEASC, and they see it in writing.
And yes, in your interim reports.
They may say,
if it meets their criteria. Okay.
Right. Oh, they might want more.
Okay.
Well, they may want more, so.
Okay.
So you'll put this out to the...
Did I put my finger on a sore spot?
No, internally it was.
Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
It was when you do these, you never know what's going to pop up. This was like the least expected, quote, issue that we thought would come up, and that did.
Oh, we did the outages, right? And now this is for the fire suppression?
Yes. Again, as part of our presentation on capital with Budget Committee, I presented to them, and the committee has it, the actual letters that we received from the fire department back in the fall. We've done all the other work that's in there, except for the fire suppression system that they're requesting that we put in our 2 wood shop classrooms at the high school and the 1 wood shop area over at the middle school. And I'm asking that you give us permission to send out an RFP to have the work done. And then we bring it back to you, request for proposal as to what the work would entail, to see if it comes within that $60,000 estimate, and then we can determine.
And then we'll figure where it's going to come from.
Well, I think
We've identified that.
that will come out. I'm going to recommend it comes out of the fund balance. But,
Okay.
you know, we don't have. That was just an estimate by one of the few companies that does that kind of work.
Right.
So we're confident that.
So we'll send it out for now.
Area, but we'll send it out and bring it back as to what the bid price
Do
will
we have a
actually
motion
cost
for
us.
that then, to send it out?
A motion
For an RFP
for an
for the fire
RFP for
suppression.
our fire suppression
For the high
system
school and middle school.
as required by the recent fire marshal's report.
Second.
All those in favor? Okay, good.
There is one other issue. When we go back to school security, and I apologize if that's okay. I've received 2 emails from parents at the CASA that were concerned about the play area, the playground area, being open to the public during the day. And that, you know, how do you control who goes there, essentially, was their concern. During the day, obviously, you know, if the kids use it, our teachers are there or the aides are out supervising. But their concern was anybody can go there. And quite frankly, I didn't have an answer for them. I said I would bring it to the committee because it's unique in that that's a public area that we share, not the small one for the kindergartners. We're talking about the one near the play areas in the back on the left-hand side.
And so families with young children use that during the day?
Yeah, in other words, anybody can use it. It's not that they're concerned about anybody using it with their kids. It's that is there any way we can restrict it just during school hours for our kids? And that's an area where
That's part of school property, though.
that's town property that we share.
I don't think we have any authority over it.
I said I'd bring it to the committee for, you know, direction, because normally, you know, in the manual that I have on my desk, I can pull out, okay, here's the problem, you know, here's the solution. This one was very unique, in that I know what the parent's concern is.
Right.
You know, and someone might show up, you know, who's not reputable or a member of the school department or whatever, but since we share it.
As with all of the issues around security, you know, you could make the schools a bunker, and someone will still find some way of subverting the security apparatus that you've instituted. But even beyond that, I would imagine that we have no authority to restrict anybody from that if it's not school property or under the authority of the school.
I would, if it's okay with the committee, I'd like to be able to respond, not to kick the can down the road, so to speak, but I think it's a town question.
Yeah.
Since they control it, that it's something that they might go to the rec commission, or, I don't know, the count, I don't want to point them in the wrong direction, but I believe the town ultimately controls it. And maybe, you know, the town would pass an ordinance and say it's
During school hours, it's restricted for school use.
It's beyond us.
I mean, well, yeah, it is beyond us, frankly, and so our opinion doesn't really make a difference, but is that even desirable? You know?
I don't know.
They restrict people who live in the town from accessing the town's recreational areas that should be open to all.
You know, I'd like to respond to say.
Yeah.
But it's always supervised, right, by adults.
When our kids are there, when our children are there,
they're never out there
they're
alone.
always supervised.
No.
Right, and so if there was...
In theory, you could have a mom there with 2 toddlers playing while our kids are there.
Right.
Which seems perfectly fine to me. You know?
But I don't think that was their concern.
Yeah, no, I understand that.
Right.
But it was something unique that I haven't had to answer.
Well, all concerns should be addressed, of course.
Right.
You know.
So, is it okay if I direct them to, I guess it's the council? Or just say it's not our purview? How would the committee like me
Yeah, I think you have to say
I
that.
think you
that
have-
it's
I think
under
you have
the
to say it's really
jurisdiction
not
of
our
the town
decision,
council or
'cause that's
jurisdiction
what
of
the
the
issue is.
recreation commission, and so we cannot set limitations on the use of that
I thought that,
property.
I just wanted to run it by you first before
Yeah.
because I didn't want to say something out of turn
Right.
about bringing it to you. Thank you, that was.
Okay. Reports or announcements?
I just have one quick tidbit. We recently applied to be part of the Healthy Schools Initiative in Rhode Island, and we were one of the applicants that were chosen to be part of the initiative. So Mrs. Black and I have a session
survey
next
to fill out.
Monday to complete a very lengthy online survey, and this will give us feedback on our health and wellness policy in relation to new federal regulations. So we are looking forward to being part of that and getting some technical assistance from the state.
Interestingly enough, Mrs. Black said, "Who's responsible for filling it out?" And I said, "You are."
Well, I just wanted to make sure.
Normally that's us, but you get that honor this
Okay,
time.
thank you. Anything else?
Just to speak to Mr. Rarick's earlier comments, the second math night is occurring at Ranger School as we speak, and there are many teachers there in support of it
Excellent.
And it was really
on a
fun.
very cold night.
Yes,
It
it was
is
fun.
very cold.
It was really good. Anybody else? No? Okay.
So,
Yes, I'd like to go into exec
okay.
for schools. We didn't know which citation to use, so. you might
We'll
wanna
use
read
both of them. I make a motion to go into executive session to discuss school safety under SS 16-21-23A and/or SS 16-21-24B1.
Yes,
Second.
yes, yes.
Yes.
Okay, well,